Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to Practice English Podcast. Do you ever feel like your mind just won't stop? Like you're stuck in a loop of thoughts that go on and on?
Oh, I know that feeling. You keep replaying conversations, overanalyzing decisions, and imagining worst-case scenarios. Overthinking can be exhausting.
And the worst part? It can stop you from taking action, making decisions, or even enjoying the present moment. But here's the good news, we're going to break it all down today.
That's right. We'll talk about what overthinking is, why it happens, and most importantly, how to stop it so you can feel more in control of your thoughts.
So, stick around, because by the end of this episode, you'll have practical tools to clear your mind. And stop overthinking for good. Alright, before we get into the details, let's properly introduce ourselves. I'm Welly.
And I'm Danny. Welcome to another episode of Practice English Podcast. If you're new here, this is the place where we talk about real-life challenges in English while helping you improve your language skills at the same time.
And today, we're tackling a big one, overthinking. We all do it, right? Whether it's worrying about what someone said, replaying a mistake from years ago, or stressing over a decision that hasn't even happened yet.
Oh, totally. And the problem is, the more we overthink, the worse we feel. It can lead to stress, anxiety, and even stop us from enjoying the moment.
But don't worry. We've got you covered. In this episode, we'll break down what overthinking actually is, the signs to watch out for, and, most importantly, simple ways to stop it.
Do you want to remember these tips later? We've put together a free PDF with key vocabulary from today's episode. It's packed with words, examples, and exercises to help you reinforce what you've learned. You can grab it in the description below.
So, if you've ever caught yourself thinking too much and doing too little, let's figure this out together. This episode might change the way you handle your thoughts. Alright, let's get into it. What exactly is overthinking?
Well, overthinking is when you spend too much time analyzing, questioning, or worrying about something. It's like your brain is stuck in a loop, replaying the same thoughts over and over again.
Right. And the tricky part is, sometimes it feels like we're just being careful or logical. We tell ourselves, I'm just thinking things through. But in reality, we're just stressing ourselves out.
Exactly. Like when you overanalyze a text message before sending it. Or when you keep thinking about what you should have said in a conversation. Have you ever done that?
Oh, I've totally done that. And let's be real, has overthinking ever helped in those moments?
Nope. If anything, it just makes us more anxious. Overthinking often leads to stress, doubt, and even inaction.
And it's not just about big decisions. Overthinking sneaks into the smallest things too. Like when you spend way too long deciding what to wear, or when you keep replaying something you said earlier in the day, wondering if it sounded weird.
Oh! Or when you're finally in bed, exhausted, and your brain decides it's the perfect time to remind you of something embarrassing you did in high school.
Yes. And then you just lie there thinking, why does my brain do this to me?
Right? But seriously, how do we know when we're overthinking? What are the signs?
That's a great question. One big sign is when your mind won't stop racing. You go over the same thoughts again and again, like a broken record.
Or when you stress over things that are completely out of your control, like worrying about what other people think of you, or second-guessing every little thing you did.
Another sign is struggling to make even simple decisions. You overanalyze everything, what to eat, what to say, which movie to watch, until making a choice feels impossible.
Oh, and imagining the absolute worst-case scenario. Like assuming that if you make a tiny mistake at work, you'll somehow end up getting fired.
Yep. And then there's obsessing over tiny details, like rereading a text message 10 times before sending it, just in case there's a typo.
Yep. And let's not forget how overthinking can mess with our mood. It drains our energy, makes us more irritable, and sometimes even stops us from enjoying the moment.
If any of this sounds familiar, don't worry. You're not alone. Overthinking is super common, but the good news is there are ways to manage it. And finally, stop overthinking in everyday life.
And that's exactly what we're going to talk about next. But before we get into solutions, let's go over some key vocabulary that will help you follow along more easily. All right, before we move on to how to stop overthinking, let's take a moment to go over some key vocabulary. These words will help you understand today's topic even better.
Good idea. When you understand these words, it's easier to recognize overthinking when it happens, and even easier to stop it. Let's break them down one by one.
Worry. Definition: a feeling of anxiety or concern about something uncertain. Example: Lisa always worries about what others think of her, even when there's no reason to. Decision. Definition: a choice made after considering different options. Example: it took me an hour to make a decision about what to order for lunch. Scenario. Definition: a possible situation or outcome, real or imagined. Example: I kept thinking about every possible scenario before my job interview, which just made me more nervous. Tension. Definition: a feeling of nervousness, stress, or unease. Example: there was a lot of tension in the room before the big exam.
These are all words that describe what happens when we overthink. And the funny thing is, just knowing these words can help you recognize when you're doing it.
Exactly. The next time you catch yourself overanalyzing something, or feeling too much tension about a decision, stop for a moment and ask yourself, is this really helping me, or am I just stuck in my own head? Your thoughts don't control you. You control how you respond to them. Now that we know what overthinking is and what causes it, let's talk about something even more important: how to stop it.
Yes. Because knowing the problem is one thing, but actually breaking free from overthinking is the real challenge.
And the first thing to understand is, overthinking won't stop on its own. You have to actively do something about it.
Absolutely. And one of the best ways to stop overthinking is to become aware of when you're doing it.
Right. The moment you catch yourself going in circles, ask yourself, is this actually helping me? Or am I just making myself anxious? Is there an action I can take instead of just thinking about this?
And speaking of action, that brings us to the first strategy: shifting your focus to the present.
Overthinking usually happens when we're stuck in the past or worrying about the future.
Exactly. We replay conversations, imagine worst-case scenarios, or stress about decisions that haven't even happened yet.
So instead of letting your brain run wild, try this. Bring your attention to what's happening right now.
A great way to do this is by using your senses. Ask yourself, what do I see around me? What sounds can I hear? How does the air feel on my skin?
It might sound simple, but this technique helps pull you out of your thoughts and into the real world.
Another great strategy is to write your thoughts down.
Oh, this one works so well. When thoughts are just floating around in your head, they can feel huge. But when you put them on paper, they start to make sense.
Exactly. And once you write them down, ask yourself, is this something I can control? Am I making this bigger than it actually is? Have you ever tried writing your thoughts down? What happened?
That simple act of writing helps you see your thoughts clearly, instead of letting them spiral.
Have you ever spent way too long trying to make a decision?
Oh, absolutely. The more time I give myself to think, the more confused I get.
That's why this next strategy is so helpful. Give yourself a time limit for overthinking.
Yes. Tell yourself, I have 10 minutes to think about this. Then I have to decide and move on.
It trains your brain to trust itself, instead of questioning everything over and over.
And let's talk about perfectionism, because this is a big reason why people overthink.
Oh, for sure. A lot of the time, we're not actually thinking, we're over-perfecting.
Exactly. We get stuck in thoughts like, what if it's not good enough? But the truth is, perfection doesn't exist.
That's why, instead of asking, what's the perfect way to do this? Ask yourself, what's a good enough way to do this? Then just do it.
Overthinking makes us feel stuck, right? The longer we think, the harder it gets to take action.
That's why one of the best ways to stop overthinking is to just start doing something. Even if it's a small step, just take action.
And action doesn't have to mean solving the whole problem at once. Even doing something small, like writing a plan or taking the first step, can help break the cycle of overthinking.
And finally, talk to someone.
Overthinking gets worse when we keep it all inside. But when you talk to a friend, suddenly things don't seem so scary.
And sometimes, you just need a fresh perspective to realize you're overcomplicating things.
Talking to someone helps you see things more clearly and reminds you that your thoughts aren't always reality.
So here's a quick recap of how to stop overthinking. Focus on the present moment. Write down your thoughts. Set a time limit for overthinking. Let go of perfectionism. Take action instead of thinking in circles. And talk to someone you trust.
And remember, these things take practice. But the more you use these techniques, the easier it gets.
You know, a lot of the words we've been using today are really useful when talking about overthinking. Let's take a moment to break some of them down.
Because these tools help you stop overthinking in real life, not just in theory.
We've used some powerful words today that are worth reviewing. Let's take a closer look at a few key words we've mentioned. They can really help you understand and manage overthinking.
Totally agree. When you have the right words, it becomes easier to name what you're feeling. And once you can name it, you can manage it. Let's break them down one by one.
Present. Definition. The current moment. What is happening right now? Example. Instead of worrying about tomorrow, try to focus on the present. Spiral. Definition. When something keeps going in, circles and gets worse over time. Example. If I start overthinking, my thoughts spiral out of control. Rational. Definition. Thinking clearly and logically, without letting emotions take over. Example. Instead of overthinking, try to be rational and focus on the facts. Perfectionism? Definition. The need to make everything perfect, even when it's not necessary. Example. Her perfectionism made her spend hours rewriting the same email.
These words are more than just vocabulary. They describe real experiences that many of us go through every day.
Exactly. Next time you catch yourself overthinking, try using these words to describe what's happening. You'll feel more in control and less overwhelmed, because that's what learning vocabulary is really about. Naming your experience so you can own it. And once you start recognizing those patterns, it gets easier to stop them before they take over.
Exactly. Instead of letting your thoughts spiral, you can step back and remind yourself that overthinking isn't helping.
And that's the whole point. Learning to catch yourself in the moment and choose a different response. Have you noticed when overthinking usually shows up in your day?
Yeah, and the more you practice, the more natural it becomes.
All right, that was a lot of useful information today.
Definitely. And I'd love to hear from our listeners. Do you have any personal tricks to stop overthinking? What's something that has worked for you? Let us know in the comments.
And if you found this episode helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe to the Practice English Podcast.
Also, if you want to keep improving your English while learning about real-life situations, check out our episode on how to handle awkward moments when you forget someone's name. It's the perfect follow-up if overthinking makes you nervous in social situations.
That's a good one. We'll leave the link on the screen so you can watch it next.
Thanks for joining us today. I'm Danny.
And I'm Welly. See you next time.